What's up, gamers? You got TigerChainsaw, and today I'm going to be reviewing Driver 2 on the PS1. Now, the first Driver was a childhood game of mine. I had a lot of fond memories of that game, and I think it is honestly one of the best games on the PS1. Now, I did play Driver 2 as a kid. It wasn't a copy of my own, it was my neighbor's, but to me, Driver 2 just felt different and not in the best of ways, but I'll go into that in this review. Now, if you are a first-time viewer or if you just haven't yet, make sure you hit that sub button because I've got tons of retro video game reviews on this channel, and I'm not stopping anytime soon, so hit that sub button so you don't miss any retro reviews. All right, let's get behind the wheel once again and check out Driver 2. After the critical and commercial success of Driver that was developed by Reflections Interactive, the sequel, Driver 2, The Wheelman is Back, was released in 2000 for the PS1. Would the sequel be a smashing success like the first entry? The Wheelman is back, and so am I for this Driver 2 review, and let's start with the plot, but be warned, spoilers are ahead. Our protagonist, Tanner, is back from the original Driver. As an undercover cop who helped bring down the crime organization in the first game as a wheelman, Tanner is hired again to go undercover. This time, Tanner will be infiltrating two deadly gangs with help from his partner, Tobias Jones. After a gruesome murder leaves a Brazilian gangster dead, Tanner tracks down information on that murder that involves a man named Lenny, who is a Chicago money launderer. Lenny has been working for the gang in the US, but has made a deal with the Brazilian gang to come work for them. After a few missions in Chicago, Tanner and Tobias travel to Havana, Cuba, where it's rumored that Lenny is working. Lenny's ex-gang is run by a man named Kane and his hitman Jericho, who are working on tracking him down. It's revealed that Lenny has left Havana on a boat, headed to San Diego, where he will travel to Las Vegas to do some work. So, like a cat and mouse game, Tanner takes off for Las Vegas, hoping to catch Lenny, but instead captures Jericho and uses him as a negotiation tactic for a truce. Teaming up with Kane, Tanner works for him in Las Vegas while securing more information on Lenny. Tobias has been working undercover for the Brazilian gang and their leader Vasquez, who has been working closely with Lenny. They discover that Lenny and Vasquez has left for Rio de Janeiro, which is in Brazil. Jericho and Tanner continue to work together as they close in on Lenny. But Tobias's cover is blown and he is shot by Vasquez's men. In one final showdown, Tanner and Jericho rush to chase down Lenny before he takes off in a helicopter. They're able to damage the helicopter as it takes off with some gunshots. And as the helicopter stutters to safety, Tanner turns the gun on Jericho and reveals that he is an undercover cop. It's assumed that Jericho is arrested by the Brazilian police as sirens are blaring in the background. Tanner then takes off to chase the damaged helicopter. He finds the wreckage and arrests Lenny, closing the case and shutting down one of the most wanted men in two separate gangs. I absolutely love the first Driver, and it did so many groundbreaking things. Now, Driver 2, it only came out a year after the original, and this was kind of something that PlayStation developers did, is once they got a hit, they continued to replicate games in that series just a year later. Think of Medal of Honor, think of Siphon Filter, and think of Driver. Now, the issue with this is that these games often came out less polished, more glitchy, and had some issues with them. And that's exactly what I found in Driver 2, unfortunately. Now, a lot of people love this game for the fact that you can exit a car and steal a different one. Yeah, that's cool, but I do have some gripes with how everything goes down. The first Driver shined with the car damage and the physics of driving. Like Driver 1 in Miami, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York, Driver 2 features 4 cities that you'll visit and drive around. This time, as mentioned in the story, you'll be burning rubber in Chicago, Havana, Las Vegas, and Rio. This is where Driver 2 actually outshines the original. Chicago wasn't much to look at, but I feel like I was really visiting Havana, Las Vegas, and Rio. With Havana, it had cars from the 1950s, just like the real country does, due to the US embargo on shipped goods from Cuba. And as someone who has been to Vegas at least a dozen times, I loved driving around the city on the PS1. I was pretty impressed with how they were able to recreate recognizable landmarks from Vegas, including the Strip with the Eiffel Tower, the Pyramid, and the pirate ship. These were all real landmarks from Vegas, and it was pretty fun to see them and drive by them. Now, I've never been to Rio, but I did get a sense of the culture there with the exotic beaches and the colorful sidewalks. Another upgrade from the original Driver is the number of vehicles in the game. Instead of just cars, the game now features trucks, vans, buses, limos, and a variety of other cars to drive, bringing a more realistic feel to the game. The biggest upgrade to the gameplay is the fact that Tanner can get out of his vehicle and steal other cars. If your car sustains too much damage, just hop out and grab another one. Remember, this was all before Grand Theft Auto 3, so this was highly impressive at the time. So those were some highlights of the upgraded gameplay. But unfortunately, it wasn't all just highlights. There were some lowlights in Driver 2. Let's take a look at what I found to be annoying. I give the developers credit for taking Tanner out of the car and giving him the ability to run around and flip switches or steal cars. But controlling him on foot may be the worst and most awkward feeling ever. I lost out on several missions because Tanner wouldn't run the way I was directing him. It was terrible with the joysticks, and it wasn't much better using the directional pad. If you're gonna install a groundbreaking game mechanic, make sure it doesn't suck. The next issue I had was the severe slowdown of the gameplay. Driver 1 suffered from this a few times with the overpopulating of the screen with cars and people that would make the gameplay slow down, but that was just every now and then. In Driver 2, the slowdown effect was constant and in almost every mission. There were missions that I played through with the cars crawling by as my own vehicle struggled to accelerate. It just seemed like the game had way too much going on for the PS1 to handle it all in one smooth sequence, and that was a buzzkill. Now, perhaps it was because I didn't own Driver 2 during my childhood, but I noticed right away that the difficulty setting was much higher than the original. And that's not a bad thing, because in the original Driver, I cruised through every single mission, beating it on my first or second time. Now, obviously that last mission, holy hell, that one is extremely difficult. But in Driver 2, the missions are much more difficult from the start. Don't get me started on that truck that tosses bombs out the back. Fuck that truck. Anyway, I felt like when I beat a mission, it wasn't for my own driving skills, but sometimes out of pure dumb luck. You just had to get lucky that the cops or whoever was chasing you was gonna crash into something and that you were able to get away. Driver 2 did keep the fun mini games that I loved during the original, but it threw away the amazing game menu from the original for a boring standard menu that comes with just about every game. They also got rid of the ability to select missions or take a break. If you wanted to go for a ride, you'd have to exit the main game and go back to the main menu. In the original, you could just go to your hotel room and have a few options, which was really a nice touch. That's all gone now, unfortunately. I was able to beat Driver 2 somewhat easily, even though the missions were more difficult, but it left me wanting more from the story. Gone was the interesting characters from Driver 1 that had so much personality. Instead, they were replaced by typical dull gangsters. My Driver 2 playthrough just craved more content, as it wasn't as satisfying. Driver 2 adds a few upgrades to the gameplay and enhances the vehicles and cities that you drive in, giving it a fun and realistic feel to the game. Unfortunately, they also subtracted a few things that made me fall in love with the original. Put them both together and you get more subtractions than additions with Driver 2, acting more like an original game instead of a sequel. It's a fun game, still with plenty to offer, but I prefer the original. Driver 2 scores an 8 out of 10, making this still a great game. Gamers, that was my review of Driver 2 on the PS1. I don't know, I just feel like nothing will ever touch the original and that masterpiece of a game. Driver 2 is still good, and some may even say great, but for me, it doesn't touch the original. But I want to hear from you guys, especially those that have played both the original and the sequel. Which one do you like better? Did you like the ability to get out of the car and steal a different one, or were you like me and kind of was put off by the controls of Tanner on foot? It just did not feel right. Or did you experience a ton of slowdown like I did? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're there, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel because I've got tons of game reviews coming out. All right, gamers, make sure you play a video game today.